I'm currently the Chief Executive Officer of ARIA and PPCA, so the two peak bodies for recorded music here in Australia. And I guess my start in the music business was really as an artist. So I played in bands pretty much my whole life, from school bands to university bands. I feel like in my heart, I'm definitely still an artist, and hopefully I can bring that mentality to the work that I do with ARIA and PPCA. So I did a law degree at Monash down in Melbourne, and a commerce degree with a major in finance, and did a Masters of International Law focusing on intellectual property and copyright. So I think that kind of gave me a good grounding for all of the policy battles that we've had. I also worked in government for a few years as an advisor to the communications minister on internet and information economy issues, and worked in technology for tech companies over in New York. So background in law, politics, technology and music. So it's served me quite well, I feel, I hope. We're probably in the best position we have been in since really, the early 2000s in terms of growth in both domestic market and then also opening up global markets for Australian artists. And I think with government, we're in very good shape from a policy perspective, from both the state and federal level, in government supporting and backing the Australian music industry. And from PPCA, we had a record distribution last year. I think from an ARIA's perspective, we had record engagement throughout Australia through our partnerships with Nine and YouTube globally. So it was definitely a really exciting period, and we just came off the back of Tones and I having the biggest hit on the planet after starting the year being an unknown. So it was almost at the start of a golden era for the music business, I think. And this, bushfires and then into this, has been a massive wake-up call, and certainly not what anyone was expecting. But that being said, I think the fundamentals remain in place, in that we are a digital-focused, globally relevant industry. This will be a short-term hiccup. I think on the live music side, it's a much tougher game, and that was obviously an incredibly strong and growing part of the business for the last couple of decades, and that's gone overnight to really, to zero. So that's going to be something that all of us in the music community are going to have to work hard on to help build that back. But certainly over the last decade, I think the industry's done a fantastic job in pivoting and retooling its business. At the beginning of last decade, 85% of sales were physical. At the end of the decade, 85% were streaming. So it's moved, and we're continuing to embrace technology as new technology now comes down the pike, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Fortnite. I think music is, and the labels and the artists are at the forefront of it. So, and again, I think that's been a big mental shift, that we consider ourselves a technology business and a digital business, obviously with music and art at the heart of it, but we've kind of unlocked ourselves from the distribution method and realised that music is great no matter what the platform will be. We just have to make sure we can monetize those platforms so the money can come back to the artists and the people who invest in the artists. I personally was maybe looking forward to a year that might have been a little easier after a decade of massive challenges, but that's just, I think that's just the way that the world works. And we as an industry, I think, are probably the best place than any business, because we're battle hardened, we're used to disruption, we're scrappy, we're innovative. The music business has never really been a business that's relied on government assistance, even though we need it to help us through. But we're a scrappy, resilient, innovative, entrepreneurial business, and I think that will serve us well coming into this because we're battle hardened and we're used to dealing with disruption. I kind of feel that I woke up a month into it. There's one day in my home office and went, man, that's hectic. Trying to get the best possible information from our industry to government, from government to our industry, from me personally as a leader back to my stakeholders, to my staff. And it almost, just went into it and then came out a little bit later and took a while to take a deep breath and realise, geez, we're all working from home and the world's changed dramatically in 4 weeks. But I must say, as I constantly am, the music community is an amazingly resilient, tight-knit and open community. And we again, like we did for the bushfires, like we had many times before, really banded together to understand, all right, where are the pressure points? What are our asks of government? I think everyone has gone through their own personal challenges, just the impact where I think you're dealing with a work challenge in that your whole work environment has changed. If you weren't working from home before, you were now. Your family circumstances have changed because you're dealing with children who used to be out of the house and are now in the house. If you've got children, you're dealing with an economic challenge because your business as it was is fundamentally changed. There is issues for you, for your parents, for your kids. As a leader, it's trying to find that balance between being vulnerable and resilient, because you want to let your staff and stakeholders know that it's okay to be going through a hard time. Like, you're going through a hard time, this is hard, and it's okay, and no one's situation in this is going to be perfect. Challenge for me personally has been that the distinction between the home and the home office, like when does one start and one finish, between the week and the weekend, all of those things, particularly very early, I think blurred, and over time have been better at creating what are artificial distinctions, but trying to make that work. Use of video calls, which we all had available to us, but I spent a lot of time on a plane. I know a lot of people spend a lot of time on a plane, flying to Melbourne for the day, Brisbane for the day, LA for a couple of days, London for 3 days, and you just didn't question that. I do think that will change. Everyone talks about, it's opened my eyes to all of these things and how important family is and taking time out. I hope we remember those things, the positive elements of these as things return, and we can minimise the negative stuff. But I do think there will be a change in how we work, definitely. It is a lot of priority shifting. If I had looked at what I had in my diary for the first 2 weeks of April as opposed to what actually I did, it would be 80 to 90% different. But I think would be across the board for a lot of people, in that you had to go and deal with what needed to be done. There's certainly a lot more video calls. There's been probably a few more international. From my perspective, it might have been something I did once or twice a month, and I'm now doing twice a week, just dealing with sharing information with colleagues and stakeholders internationally. We're so interconnected, and as different countries were dealing with issues at different times, it's been helpful to understand what might be coming down the pike from various countries. So that's been a big shift in that, working a bit later or a bit earlier and trying to manage your time within that. They're a lot more forgiving that, if your kid walks in during a meeting or you have to leave or something happens, because everyone's in this situation, there's people are a lot more forgiving of that. That's one of the positives, I think, is that it's revealed people's human side a bit. There's no doubt that it impacts you when you talk to people, and just you want to do the best job you can for the people in our business who are on hard times. So, I definitely wanted to get around as many people as possible, understand what's happening and see where I could best help. Well, I love that we've had we've had 4 or 5 Aussie #1 albums in the last, I think it's either 4 of the last 5 weeks or 5 of the last 6 weeks. Fans pivoting to start buying direct from artist websites, and so still getting the physical albums, but really driving through their fans and their fan clubs I've enjoyed that, and that's been a nice story throughout all of this. How fans have got around their bands. There's been some fantastic concerts online. I thought the music from the home front was a wonderful moment. You know, I loved seeing Aussie talent come together and put on great music for Australia. So I think there has been a lot of really inspirational, positive things, and just seeing how the music community has come together. Like, you know, there's so many of these conference calls and email chains and WhatsApp groups trying to share information. Like, you know, no one's ego's got in the way, no one's reputation's got in the way. Everyone's kind of got their hands dirty and got to work. That for me is probably the most rewarding and inspiring part of it. I feel like that's, you know, the likely scenario is that we will not have international tours here for the foreseeable future, and that might be 6 months, it might be 12 months, it might be 18 months. But certainly there will be a window where it'll be Australian only getting out there and playing, and we're hopeful that that does get more radio play, TV time, streaming, and album purchase for Australian artists. Like, we're something that we think is the best way to get money into the hands of artists is get out and buy a record, stream their music. It's buy a T-shirt, do that, and get money into the hands of your favourite artists. So yeah, I'm hopeful. I think that will be a nice silver lining out of a tough situation. You constantly have to evolve. You know, what did Dylan say? He ain't busy born, he's busy dying. I think that's the truth, and ever was thus. And I think everyone in the music business has learned that lesson, that there's nothing's going to stay the same for very long. Got to keep innovating. Sometimes it's the innovation we bring internally. Other times it's forces that come upon you. But as I said earlier, I think we're very resilient, scrappy, smart, innovative business, and we'll continue to find a way forward. And the beautiful thing is that people love music. I've got a 14-month-old son, and I didn't teach him to dance when music came on. It's something innate in human beings. And we're very fortunate that is the case. Music is part of the human condition. So that will always be the case. We've just got to work out the best way to get it to the people and hopefully get them engaged and loving Aussie artists. I just hope that we can continue to grow, that we can continue to innovate, that we can break more great Australian talent, that we can unleash more great Australian talent to the world. We're a country of 25 million people. We're a world of, there are 3 to 4 billion people connected to the internet. They're on 1.8 billion on YouTube, 250 million on Spotify, 250 million on Apple. You know, the population outside of Australia who should be engaging with Australian music is enormous, and I think that's a huge opportunity for us, and that will be impacted by the fact that we can't get our Aussie acts touring for a while, but we've got to be nimble and innovative of how we're going to work with that. But yeah, I'm as optimistic as I was starting the year about Australian acts and and Australian music in our industry, and we will bounce back strong, better than ever.